All right.
Thank you, folks, for joining us on another episode of the SFL Podcast. Y'all know who I am. I'm Mighty RX, Max Paul, owner of the Alaska Storm. We are joined today by the current crown holder. We're going to call him the crown holder because, the trophy holder, the champion, the person we aspire to be, the team that we are chasing. The one and only Ramos. Ramos, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. Thank you very much. Pretty excited to get to these builds. Some interesting builds. So, very excited to tackle them and getting the Caesar started next month.
So my man, it feels like this to at least to me, it feels like the season ended yesterday. Now to a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah.
them, well, to a lot of the new guys that are champing at the bit, to them it's like, man, when's this new season start, man? It's 6 weeks, man, that's too long. I can't wait that long. I'm like, but to us, like the people that you're behind the scenes that are arguing, trying to get things going the right way and trying to make people see, the same view that we see, so we can agree on things to change and to help improve the league. It feels like yesterday, so to speak. But hey, do not fret, populace. This new incoming wave of rookies. Before you know it, the season will be upon you, and before you know it, it'll be week 6, and you'll be in the heated playoff race, or. But so, with all that said, I was currently working on something really nice to put together, so y'all can have some visuals to look at tonight. So that's why the show kind of began a little later than usual. And even with that all said, I still couldn't finish what I want to finish. So Ramos and I will break down. We're going to give y'all a conference breakdown. Each conference, we're going to look at how the teams are built and whatnot, and kind of give y'all a forecast as to who we like, who we might not like, who our dark horses are, and so on and so forth. So, Ramos, I'm pretty sure that you would like to see that. I'm about to share it with you right now. So, give me 1 second, Ramos.
All right. In the meantime, shout out to Realist in Kumbaya, Chris Brown. We have Jeremy Vega. We have Godspeed 33. We have Frank Gooden in the house. My man Frank Gonzalez. We have Cheesy. We have I'm an Problem on chat. Thank you very much for joining us. 16 people watching. So if you like what you're hearing, just thumbs up and thanks for being here. AJ Levy also in the house. LB29. What's up?
I'll say this: last night's roster reveal, where people got to see, at least numbers wise, what values were spent where, and the breakdowns that were provided by Stephen Mullinax, as well as I believe it was Alex Bond was there too, I believe, right last night, as well as a very flavorful Flavor 2K.
That was fun.
Yeah, that
I
was.
I
Yeah,
enjoyed the heck out of it.
some feathers were ruffled, um, but it's all in good fun, folks. If I'm like this, if you were unhappy with what was uh, said about your team yesterday, let's make sure that we remain active, that we can improve our players, which in turn will help our team compete at a higher level. And at that point, the best revenge is success. Never forget that,
Absolutely.
folks. The best revenge is success. So almost give me 2 secs. I'm tweeting this thing out now. Um, and I'm about to share with you what I've worked on so far. We're going to go ahead and save.
Aaron Arrington, thank you very much for joining us. How are you? Yeah, but yeah, that show with the roster, not the roster, sorry, the reveal of the roster reveal. How everybody's shaping up. Very fun with Kanye and other people. So you know, we will just tackle it a little bit more. Not in, I'm not gonna say in depth, but I will give, my 2 cents. Mighty will give his 2 cents as well. So we are just excited to get the season started, man. It's just about 30 something days.
Yeah, is your playbook done yet? Is your playbook ready for next season?
Yeah, it actually is. So maybe a little bit of, polishing some stuff, but I would say it's about 95, 98% done. So
Very good, very good. I don't know if you got it yet. I just sent it your way. If you
yeah,
want to take a if you want to take a look at it, um, I the the colored or the higher tiers, or the higher level, should I speak? I did not have time to fill in the lower level, so anything besides safety that doesn't have a color, assume that it's the a lower value player.
right.
So as you could tell, there are some teams that are coming in stacked. My goodness, when I say stacked, it's ridiculous. Um,
Yeah.
with that being said, give me one sec, folk. I got like 19 windows open, trying to manage what's what. um, so you know what? We'll do it like this. We're gonna start in the east.
All right.
Okay. Um, in the east. You know what? Hold on. Let me on this right quick. There we go. In the east, we're looking at Atlanta. We're looking at Carolina. We're looking at London. We're looking at Mexico City. We're looking at Queen City, and we're looking at Tallahassee. Now, now, Ramos, you got a little time to look at the sheet that's in front of you.
Yeah.
And for the rest of y'all, I'm going to do this. I'm going to give y'all a window.
Mike Dax, thank
And
you very much for joining us as well. Andy Hamilton, owner of the Vancouver Legion.
cool. There you go. Oh, no, that's one. There you go. So let me catch up with you right quick. Like I said, I got a million windows open. We're
We
going back
have
down.
the master himself, Shan Varner, owner of the Chicago Wildcats.
That's right. The Shifu right there. That's the Shifu. Yeah, I recognize.
Indeed. I'm just thankful I play football against Shan's team and I don't do karate
You know,
because,
for
yeah.
real, man. He'd fold me up like a lawn chair. No, thank you. I don't like that.
Mm-mm.
I
Nope.
wouldn't like that at all.
Nope.
That is, yeah, that's not for me.
Nope.
I'm going. So, so Ramos, pick a squad. How about this? Talk about your squad a little bit. Why you went the direction you went with the build that's currently in front of us.
Okay, with us, within Mexico City Aztecs, I basically came with a balanced build, pretty much just waiting for the other rosters to come up and see what we can do. So I didn't want to stack much on either running the ball or passing the ball or pass defense, run defense. I kind of wanted to kind of go balanced and do everything kind of okay to good. I have Matt Wilson at 82.77. I think that will give us some solid quarterback play in the time he develops. Ray Bentley at 87.81 will give us a solid run game. We have three wide receivers coming, so that will help obviously on the passing attack. And on defense, I went with a couple linebackers to kind of contain the run, and with a full secondary of two corners, two safeties, and also the kicker, because now with player progression, how teams are gonna you know develop slowly or slower than previous seasons. You don't have anymore the goal with 5 abilities to carry your team. Um, Basically, I'm just like expecting sometimes kind of those ugly games where the kicker is going to be the one who defines it probably. Either a game-winning field goal or we score a touchdown in the final minutes and we have to kick it away. So we don't want to give the opposing team like good field position. So the kicker will help with that. So basically, I went with a kind of a balanced build, and hopefully it works out.
Okay, that's what's up. Well, we'd like to welcome Shan Varner to the broadcast. Shan is the owner of the Wildcat. Shan, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, man. Just running a little bit behind this evening.
Awesome. You know what, matter of fact, Shan, let me share something with you. And in the meantime, give us uh if you've looked at, Carolina, your old stomping grounds, give us a, brief understanding of what you think Carolina's gonna bring to the table this season.
Well, I mean, I actually think they're going to bring a lot. I think their pass game and their run game, by the looks of the way they're building their team this year, I think they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. Actually, Mighty, and I think they're going to turn things around this season. And they went, I believe it was 1-11 last season. So, I just think they're trying to do some things new, and I think they're going in the right direction.
So do I. After breaking down the rosters a little bit, they have the highest rated or valued defensive tackle in the league. So for those that did not know, now you know. Um, when Carolina comes a knocking, for your center, be prepared. Have extra layers of equipment on because he's about to take a beating. Um, Shan, if you look at the podcast channel, you'll see I posted a little graphic up there to help you understand what's what. I
Um,
kind of color coded everything, kind of give you an easier time figuring out what's what.
okay.
All right, the positions that don't have any color codes, assume that they're lowest value unless they're safeties. I didn't have a chance to get to those as of yet.
Right.
For the rest of y'all, once I'm done with it, I'll post it in the signings channel for everybody to see how every team's actually broken down by value. It'll be color coded for y'all, make life easy.
Oh,
Um,
that would be so great. Thank you.
yeah, not a problem. It took me forever in a day because today was a crazy day where I was at. So, actually, I can't even do that because I got to look at my own self. Hey, so let me know when y'all are ready to start really digging in this thing. We're gonna do Shan, as I was telling Ramos, we're gonna do a conference overview. Seeing that last night they already did a kind of roster breakdown. We're gonna do a conference, you know, overview as to who like, in the East, Central, and
Hmm.
West kind of deal. With all that said, Tallahassee is gonna be another team that's gonna be bringing the funk with a pair of silver, so middle tier defensive tackles. They're not lowest, they're not highest, but two middle tier defensive tackles in Mike Johnson and Hunter Norwood. Um, yeah, I'm not envying any quarterback that got to deal with that because you can double team one,
Nope.
can't double team both. Offensively, yeah, they're kind of light, but they're not lightweight. They have one of the higher value quarterbacks in the league, and Christensen throwing the rock. They got Kenny G. They're gonna have Kenny G on the outside, who is basically decimal points under the highest possible value. They're gonna have Duke Wilson on the opposite side, who's right there in the middle value at the middle value. So those receivers will help open up the underneath stuff for the non-star tight ends as well as for their running game and their middle value fullback. Um, Defensively, that D line has to do work because they don't have any stars at the second level and they only have one star corner, manning the outside. So if they can't get back there, man, that non-star corner is going to be in for a long day. Um, Carolina's offense is going to be looks like it's going to be heavily relying on AJ Francis. Yeah, AJ, I'm showing you love because I forgot to show you some love last night. I got your back. Um, Mark Biddix and AJ look like they're going to be the ones that make the offense go. They have a triplet of receivers out there between Mark Trice, Jalen Miller, and Tristan. Oh, good grief! I'm not going to do that. Tridon. It's Tristan Diacesis. I'm sorry if
Tristan
I'm
16.
JC6, like 16,
Yeah,
really? Oh, go ahead,
exactly. Yeah.
Tristan. Hold it down. My bad. I screwed up your name. I'm so sorry, Tristan. Um, with that triplet there, they're not exactly burners, but they're probably going to be relied upon to be chain movers and keep the offense on a good down and distance, so they could remain on time to allow the defense to catch their breath and come back with a vengeance. Um, we got Queen City with the only pair of basically highest tier quarterback and highest tier running back. They got the most valuable running back in the league as of right now, Ash Odom. And we all know what Ash did last season in Alaska. He was a terror and a half. And now he goes to a team who basically has a legacy on always having strong running games. And you got AJ Caswell, who's coming to be that tone setter whenever defenses get nosy, try to stop Ash. They round out their offense with three lower valued skill position receivers, two wide receivers and the tight end. But with the kind of attention the quarterback, or should I say, the running back is going to be requiring to allow for the quarterback to have the time, and because of his value, he'll be able to make more than his fair share of good decisions out there. Defensively, they bring Koa, Kaleo, and Ellis Harlow as bookend defensive ends, meaning that if they get a lead on you in the fourth quarter, yeah, pretty much put the game in the books because you're not throwing to and successfully because those ends will come at you. We have Alex Cross, who was a problem last season. I can't wait to see what he does as a repeat in his sophomore season. They have a pair of middle tiered free safeties. So one of them will definitely play in that slot. And I see what you're doing, Eric Barkley. Don't think you're slick. I'm watching you. With that second free safety is going to be playing kind of a pseudo linebacker role because he's the one that's going to be in the box on most downs. With that said, with the little bit of breakdown I gave for the, oh, I'm sorry, I gotta show London some love. Um, London, they have a very well balanced offense. They have a middle tier quarterback. They have a little lower than the highest value running back, and they have a middle tier receiver. That's a nice little, that's a nice little three-headed monster they have on offense. Defensively, they come at you as well with a pair of defensive ends. They have Slim. Don't call me Eminem, Slim Shady. Manning the middle of that defense as a high value middle linebacker. Yeah, this team is well rounded. I like this build. So the East looks like it's going to be very competitive. Shan, from the teams that I broke down, what do you think?
Well, I think Queen City is going to be right back in there. They're basically doing the same build that they did last year and also the previous year. So I think Atlanta and Queen City is going to be a dangerous team. I think that what you're saying about London being a very balanced team, I'm pretty excited to see what's going to transpire with that. Again, going back to Carolina's got a really good game plan going into this season. And really, that's all I really see. I mean, Queen City is going to be right there back on top again in my eyes because they rely heavily every year on the run game, and they're basically building the same team. And this build here benefits them a lot. They run the ball a lot with Ash Odom, and they only have two receivers, which they only needed two receivers last year. And Chris Curtis had a great game, a great season last season. So, I think they're just going to be right back in it, but they're going to have some some competition this year. The East looks very, very dangerous, man.
Ramos, before you jump in, let me give my fellow Chisholm some loving and do a quick breakdown of his team. He's bringing in BDG Hollywood at a middle tier value. The offense is heavily reliant on lower tier personnel though, so they're probably going to be relying and depending on that defense to be strong as we know cheesy defenses to be. You know, he found someone to fill in Ludacris's shoes, them some big shoes to fill. I think there was I might have found a coach in a couch in an entertainment center inside those shoes. That's how big they were. Andrew Hawkins is going to be there. Is the man that's going to be replacing Luda. Andrew, hopefully you bring the funk like Luda used to in the middle of that D. Dylan Rowland and Quantus Shine make up the linebacking squad. Yeah, he's just like last season. He's repeating the lower tiered value corners, and he has two middle tier value safeties in Aaron Lee and E.K. Vincent. So I fully expect this defense to be a well-rounded defense, one that will keep the offense in ball games. And I saw about Demar Woods not throwing the game away. Can he manage the game and be able to pull out the victory at the end? Because there will be, with this, knowing how the Swarm played, they are going to be in every game come the fourth quarter. So with that said, Ramos, what you think of the East? Bias aside.
Yeah, I mean, even biased aside, this is just a incredibly tough division. You know, even if I don't include my own team, I have to obviously put in Queen City right there. As always, a candidate to take it all. I have to put Atlanta obviously in the conversation because I love their build. I think that their build is one of the more stronger builds in the SFL. Seems like they will be able to do everything just fine. You know, with the quarterback right there, the running back, couple of wide receivers, they have the tight end, and you know they have the pass rusher, they have a couple of run stoppers, and they have a full secondary. So I think that Atlanta's shaping out to be a very good team that, as you said, will be in every game in the fourth quarter. Obviously, you have Tallahassee with a unique build, which is going to be absolutely interesting. Now, hopefully for them, for their sake, that front four, that defensive lineman can stop the run, because if one of the running backs in the East, like BDG Hollywood or Ash Odom, breaks loose to the second level or third level, it's going to be very hard for them to stop him. But you know, I will never count a Frank Gooden team out. Absolutely. And obviously, you know, Carolina, which might possibly be my favorite build of them all in the SFL, excluding my own team, obviously, because I really like the fact that they went with a balanced build with a high tier defensive lineman to put in some pressure, and a high tier running back in AJ Francis, as well as 30 wide receivers. You know, a couple of outside linebackers will always be helpful for them to contain the edges. So Carolina's build might be my favorite one of them all in the SFL. So even though they are the underdog in this conference, we don't have to sleep on Carolina. So I just think this East division will be a bloodbath, and I'm really excited to see how everything shapes up. Not only with my team against other teams, but between each other. You know, I'm looking forward for Tallahassee, Queen City games, Carolina, Atlanta games. They're going to be really fun.
And I quote, "The East is going to be a bloodbath, but I'm looking forward to it." Yeah, did you ever think you'd utter those kind of words? Because that, to me, that sounds ridiculous. It sounds crazy.
I'm looking forward to it because we are going to lead the pack.
Okay, I don't doubt your acumen. You know, kicking brother from another mother. You know me. I don't doubt you not one bit. I mean, you're wearing the crown. You got the trophy. We're all envious of you right now. Just saying the way you phrased that was so. I just have to repeat it because to me it's poignant but funny. So, with that said, I really like all the different types of builds that I'm seeing out in the East. It's going to make for a very interesting season, because you know they say imitation is the greatest type of flattery. So don't be surprised if you get imitated next off season by a team up north if what you tried to pull would become successful. I'm not saying, but I'm just saying. Well, nevertheless, moving on. We're going to look at the Central next. In the Central, we have the Chicago Wildcats. We have newfound Indianapolis Red Devils. Give them the D. Oklahoma City Renegades. We have the Sioux Falls Sparrows. We have the St. Louis Gladiators and the Tulsa Desperados. Now, looking at all these builds, gentlemen, y'all got the sheets in front of y'all. Y'all see, like, Indianapolis's offense very, very well-rounded. Like, there's no really weak part. There's no part that you can sleep on, because at any moment, any one of those guys could be any one of those guys could, go for 80. Between Matthew Mitchell at running back, Dan Daly, and Eli McCormick at receiver. Any one of those guys could burn you for a long touchdown. And then when the defense starts to be too weary, you got Kyrie Tate working the middle, moving the chains. Defensively, it looks like it's going to be very bend but don't break. They put there are 5 DBs on the team and an outside linebacker, so it's looking like it's going to be a lot of sub packages, a lot of nickel, a lot of dime, and then kind of everybody rally to the ball and stop the opposing team's short attack. That Chicago's bring basically the same team that brought them to within one game, a quarter of a championship. If it ain't broke, don't break it kind of deal. You got E.T. King, former MVP E.T. King. We got J.C.K. Coming in to fill the void that Deion Hawkins left when he was awarded team himself. You got a trio of receivers in Kendall Gilbert, Davis Reed, and Alex Eli. Though they're lower tiered because of the number of them. How many there are. You can't just take one away. You'll have, problems if you try to take one away. So they'll be able to do what they do, and then you always have, old trusty Shan Varner, man, in the middle of that offense as a safety valve for ET. Defensively, they're trying something new. They moved the middle linebacker to the outside, so they're rocking 2 outside linebackers, 2 cornerbacks, a strong safety in AJ Barnes, and Maurice Spurgeon manning the deep middle. So, I know you don't want to, kind of reveal what's up your sleeve yet, Shan, so I'm going to hold off. Let me talk about the Central a little longer. Let me give y'all one more team. We're going to do the Oklahoma City Renegades in the Central who are bringing in former Cleveland owner, now QB and signal caller and shot caller for the Renegades, Deacon Nickens. At the low value, they have running back Donk Bunkers. So their offense is very budget-based offense, though they have 2 receivers and 2 tight ends, though. So at any given time, knowing the way OKC runs their offense, all the stars are always on the field at any given time. So there rarely be non-stars on the field. The only time that'll happen is if someone were to be injured. Defensively, they have Mandrake Perk. That's a great name for defensive end, by the way. Mandrake is going to be playing defensive end. He's at the middle tier level. They got Dave Drury, at linebacker. He'll be playing middle, and he's at the middle level as well. And then you have the defensive backfield where you have 2 corners and two safeties. Shan, now that you see kind of what your opposition is going to be looking like, at least value-wise, what do you think? Who do you think was going to be your biggest competitor?
Just out of the 2 teams there, or the Central?
In Central and all. I'm gonna touch on the other 3. Just good. In the meantime, just who you think your biggest competition is going to be?
I think just going off the experience, I think heavily favored is going to have to be Sioux Falls. They're going with a 3 receiver look this year, and looks to be passing the ball a little bit more, be more pass heavy. And I think that the next one that really intrigues me is probably going to be the Indianapolis Red Devils. And then, of course, can't count out Mr. Irvine. So with a 2 tight end set there. So all the other teams look interesting. Even Tulsa looks interesting. Tulsa's defense really is what really is what got me. They're really going to be really, really good on the defensive side. Not saying that Corey Jones and Sonzo Robinson can't get it done in the air, but defensively they look really, really heavy with Espinorial coming in at inside linebacker. So, that's just some thoughts real quick about what I think who's going to be the top is probably going to be Sioux Falls, my biggest competitor.
Gotcha. Speaking of Sioux Falls, let's get to what their team is looking like. Sioux Falls is bringing back Julian Tyree at the very high level. So he'll be not only will he be the signal caller and shot caller, he'll probably be the man relied upon to make sure the offense does what it's supposed to do. They have bring in Robert Redford, of horse whisperer frame, run to run the ball. So hopefully he'll be the galloping ghost, I guess. We have a trio of receivers here as well between Sean Harrelson, Malcolm Moore, and AJ Warren. They're all coming up at the low or close to lowest possible value, but again with a high valued quarterback, he can make those receivers be more than they could ever hope to be, at least at the beginning of the season. So defensively, they've kind of moved away from the defensive linemen and kind of came in with a packed linebacker core. They bring back Adam Koye, who was their lockdown corner last season, and Nick Pop got moved to corner. No, Nick Pop was that corner. I'm sorry, I'm thinking Christopher Dodd. Pop and Dodd, the DODD and POPP when you see it on the back of a jersey. No comment. AJ Levy rounds out the rest of the defensive backfield. As we know, Sioux Falls defense is always a problem. Offensively, can Julie Tyree remain cleaner than he did last season? That waits to be seen. But I know for a fact they're a pain and a half to have to face, seeing that they swept us last year. So that's that for Sioux Falls. St. Louis is hoping to get to kind of continue the winning ways they had late in last season. They bring back Ethan Alexander at the middle tier. They bring Denzel Diaz at middle tier. Elijah Swain is at the middle tier. So offensively, they'll be running back and tight end relying again, but this time they actually have some star receivers to facilitate Ethan Alexander's task of finding and having guys make plays for him down the field when given an opportunity. Defensively, they bring in Scott LaRue and Manny Eisenhower on the D line. Love me the big guys. To me, you could win and win comfortably with big guys on your D line. They make life so much easier for everybody else. Aiden Friday is their lone linebacker. This season they bring they got Aaron Arrington and Colin Douglas, man, corner spot. They got Nick Daggs of the Daggs family fame as strong, and Freeman Peltier, better known as good grief, I can't remember Dwayne's last name. Co-owner, is
Schindler.
the co-owner. Yeah, Dwayne Schindler. I'm sorry, Dwayne. I couldn't remember last name. Dwayne Schindler, co-owner Dwayne Schindler will be manning the deep middle of that defense. Last but not least, we got the brand spanking new, still shining Tulsa Desperado. I'm bringing Sir Charles Robinson. Sir Charles Robinson at middle tier at quarterback. Deion Hawkins will be representing himself at running back at the middle tier as well. They have a lot of they have two lower value receivers in Corey Jones, Sonzo Robinson. They have a lower value tight end in Lou Lewis, two L's. Don't forget that L. The first L stands for winning. Luis Torres, who fill out the rest of the offense defensively. They have a middle tier defensive tackle, meaning it's going to be problems for teams that don't prep for that defensive tackle taking over games. They also have a middle linebacker at the middle tier in Espen Mayal. They have two corners in Jeffrey Desir, Kyler Murray. Charles Ball is the strong safety. Nate Heslip is the lower tier free safety, and they have a kicker in Joseph Carroll, who's midway between the lowest tier and the middle tier. Ramos, what do you think of the Central and the task that Shan and the Wildcats have ahead to try to repeat and get back into that title game again?
Yeah, I will if I can shut this freaking dogs up. Yeah, before I go into it, I would like to know if Andy Hamilton would like to tackle him. Andy Hamilton is joining us right now. I'm not sure if he would like to put in his 2 cents
What's up,
on
guys?
the central. How are you, Andy?
I'm cool, Robbie. How are
So
you, man?
very good, thank you. So would you like to tackle this division?
No, take your time first, and then I'll hop in after you. How about that?
Alrighty. So obviously, I'm really liking this division on how it's shaping up. I think it's a very interesting division. I said how Carolina was my favorite build. I will stand by that, but Tulsa's team build probably will be a very, very close second, because I think they have everything. They have a good quarterback, they have a good running back, they have the good receivers, the pass rusher, linebacker to stop the run. They have a full secondary, and they also have the kicker, so they can ensure a little bit their special teams. And they spent all full of their 870 points. Sorry. So I think Tulsa is, if we are looking at roster, like pure roster, I will say Tulsa will be my front runner probably. But that being said, I cannot bet against the Sparrows and the Wildcats, the two experienced teams. So if I have one team that could be the sleeper of this season in the SFL, will be Tulsa. But I'm still going to go with the Sparrows and the Chicago Wildcats to take this division, because I just love as well how Chicago bring in J. Calvin Kim to complement this offense. So, a very interesting, powerful division. I'm not taking anything away from Indy, obviously, but if I have to choose my front runners, it will be definitely Chicago and the Sparrows.
Andy, what you think of the Central?
Yeah, I think the Central is the division that, with this split, leaves the most question marks on the table for me. When you look at it, you got kind of the two powerhouses so far in Chicago and Sioux Falls. Then you kind of get into a gray, murky area. There's teams like Oklahoma City who's had some very strong seasons and then some very weak seasons. You have teams like St. Louis who have found their way late in seasons but haven't really started off too strong. Then you got a team like Indianapolis and Tulsa who are new, but have very promising things going for them. Indianapolis is very active. They have a pretty solid build. Tulsa, on the other hand, haven't seen too many people from Tulsa around on the boards, one or two, but they have a very, very good build going in. It's going to get choppy. It's going to get interesting. The thing for me is someone's got to come out in this division and win third place. I think Sioux Falls and Chicago, with the history that they have and the builds that they have this season, I have them marked down as my 1 and 2 in that division. I won't necessarily say who I have where, but then I think it gets a little interesting. With the way that James coached in St. Louis, what did he learn? What did he take away? When you look at his build, there's a lot more offensive pieces, obviously. That's a starter. And then when you look at how he's divided them up, the QB, running back, and the two receivers are kind of the best players on this team. He went with the punter, which kind of left more room for cap space on the defensive side. The question for me is the defense going to be able to get things done? Because in that front seven, they only have the one piece, which is Grant Butler. Is he going to be able to keep people from running all day on Indianapolis? Because you have some great backs in this division, like J. Calvin Kim, like Robert Redford in Sioux Falls, like Deion Hawkins in Tulsa. You're going to have to combat these things. You got to play to win your division. And if Indianapolis's build can't win their division, they're going to have to win those other games, which is not necessarily the worst thing in the world, but that's what it's going to come down to. Then you look at a team like Tulsa, who has a very strong build with the way that they have their team divided up. They got a strong person at QB. Running back is their next strong suit, then defensive tackle and inside linebacker. They're very internally based on the defense. They're relying on the corners and safeties to kind of play that secondary out well and make tackles on outside runs. And that'll kind of be the question mark for me is when running backs get outside, get to the numbers, are those cornerbacks and defensive backs able to make the play? The strong safety is very strongly rated for Tulsa. The cornerbacks are pretty decent too. So I think that's a team to look out for. Like Ramos was saying, I like their build. The question will be, can Deion Hawkins, who's never been a head coach in a game, can he put that together on the field and kind of see how that plays out? For me, I still think Sioux Falls and Chicago have the experience. They have the builds the way they want them. Sioux Falls has kind of a standard Jason McGee build. I like their front seven, which has 3 pieces. I like their defensive backs. A.J. Levy returns for them. I look for Sioux Falls and Chicago to do the damage.
I'm of the same sentiment. I really like Chicago kind of standing pat somewhat with their build and saying, you know what, this is what works for us, and they've kind of found like their niche, if I could use that term,
right?
You know, for what they do best, and now they will maximize what they do best. And yes, like I explained earlier, Sioux Falls is a problem. Whenever I've had to prep for Sioux Falls, it's been a pain and a half. So I know for a fact, well, not for a fact, but I know that they will be prepared this season to kind of get back to the winning ways that we've known Sioux Falls to, you know, accustomed to Sioux Falls to be or to have. Last but not least, you came just in time, man. Western Conference. In the West, we have Mr. Hamilton's team, the Vancouver Legion. We have the brand new team, Ryan Motz's team, the San Francisco Shocks. We have the San Antonio Vaqueros. Ramos, I'm saying it right. We got the Houston Hyenas. Yes, thank you. We got Mac Wavy, John Woo, who's back in Dallas. For those that don't know why I call him John Woo, just check the past podcast, you'll understand. And then last but not least, we got the Alaska Storm. In saying all that, let me give y'all a quick breakdown, seeing that's the side of the country where I got to deal with, where I have to deal with the San Francisco Sharks. When I say this team came in prepared and stacked, man, they made sure that they maximized that cap like nobody's business. And it's like, man, quarterback, high value, fullback, highest value, receiver, highest value, tight end, highest value, outside linebacker, highest value, another outside linebacker, highest value, cornerback, highest value, strong safety, has like Andy, I don't want to face this team. not early. Let my boys get better, you know, and then we'll come when we're ready for y'all. Because he worked. When I say he worked the numbers to maximize his cap fully, and he still had enough to bring a punter in. Like to me, that's bonkers.
I think you're looking at it the wrong way. I think he brought the punter in so he could have those higher values.
Regardless, they're on the team now, so it's like he can't get rid of them.
Right. I'm just saying he built it from the backup as opposed to being top down on that approach. No, I think you make some good points. I think this is a strong team. For me, the question mark, here is, you're going one wide receiver. That's great that he's a top tier. Great. Scary. I'll give him that. But you got one wide receiver, right? You got the one tight end. You got a fullback. The fullback doesn't scare me in the least. I've seen fullbacks in the league. I've seen him as blockers. I've seen him as ball carriers in San Antonio last year. It doesn't scare me. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's a new way that he's looking to use them that we haven't seen before. It doesn't scare me. So take the running game out of it, right? Now we're moving to the passing game. You got one wide receiver and one tight end. So we got 2 receivers. Well, we face teams in Dallas that have 4 receivers and one of the best quarterbacks the league has ever seen in Mac Wavy Jr., and I'll give him that prop. And that, there were times that didn't work. There were times that Mac Wavy last year with 3 receivers didn't work. The build is great. There's a lot of top guys at a lot of top spots, but what I'm trying to say is you got to have the execution at the same time. And the question marks are there for me with the way that Ryan Moats has kind of entered the league, and we haven't had the chance to see what he's got. He could come in and really fire on all cylinders, or he could come in and fall flat on his face. It's kind of one of those things where you got to wait and see. I know there's football pedigree there. I know there's a lot of football experience. The game's different. As I'm sure Mighty, you, Ramos, myself, Shan, I'm sure we all can attest that this game at times is very different from what you see on Sundays and Saturdays and Friday nights even. There's differences. You can't just hand the ball to the fullback up the gut and gain 6 yards like you can do sometimes in the NFL. It just doesn't work in all pro. So I'm interested to see where this team goes. But they're not necessarily one of they're not the scariest team, I would say, even in this division.
Fair enough. Before Shannon and Ramos chime in, let me break down a couple more squads to kind of give y'all a better view of what the West looks like. In Dallas, we have John Woo, Mac Wavy Jr. to those that don't know, coming back to be both the OC and the quarterback for this team. Because there's a lot of echo. I'm sorry. Mike Davis is making a return after a fantastic rookie season 2 years ago. He's coming back to tote that rock for Dallas. Again, we got Prince Escobar, for those that are not in the know, who was the most explosive offensive weapon in the league last season with his 200-yard receiving in the first half and then getting injured on a Hail Mary at halftime kind of deal. For those that don't know, go watch the games against the Crabs. It's on YouTube for everybody to watch. Michael Sy, speaking of the Crabs, made the jump over to Dallas this offseason as the Crabs folded. We have Shea Carroll running out that trio of receivers. They brought in Luke Vidovich to play tight end for them. So the offense is well-rounded, even though it only has one really high-value player in it, Prince Escobar. Defensively, TK Bell's making a return as well after terrorizing quarterbacks in this league a couple of seasons back. Max Blitz made the jump from Cleveland to Dallas as well. Heath McDaniel Sr. is holding down the middle at the high value. And then he got Junior to his right or to his left, depending on the defense they're running. At the other linebacker spot, they're bringing strong safety Brian Shark and, SFL legend Troy Loshaw at the highest value to play free safety. So they're running no cornerbacks, but they have a pair of defensive ends. And with if Mac is able to recreate the magic he had in Cleveland last season where they led the league in offense, Dallas is going to be an issue because we know Stephen Mullenlax can coach him to defense. One last team in the West, and then we'll have Shan chime in. Let's do the Houston Hyenas right quick. They got Ahmed Chima playing quarterback at the middle level. You got Warren Murray, who's going to be toting that rock at running back at the middle value as well. DR Sim, Badir Ajaluni, Garen Malone make up the trio of receivers that are at the lower tier. So offensively, it looks like it's going to be quarterback and running back heavy, and the receivers are going to be relied upon to just kind of move the chain, so to speak, because we know Houston knows defense as well, so their defense is going to keep it in ball games. They got Chad Tackle. That's smart. They got Chad Tackle playing defensive tackle at the lower value. DJ Majesty and Duke Butley playing outside linebacker at the lowest value. They have Ryan Michaels holding it down at the middle value at cornerback. They got Talik Jones, 82 Scoops Gage, and Blake Chance running up the rest of that secondary at the lowest value. Shan, pontificate on the Western Conference for us, will you?
Yes, sir. The team that really stands out to me is going to be Dallas. I just think that Mac Wavy's offense fit him really well last year when he was at Cleveland, and he's going to do the same thing this season. The defense looks stout. I mean, that 1-2 combination there with Stephen Mullenix on the defense and Mac Wavy on the offense, I think that's going to be a team to look out for this season. Houston, their defense just looks stout. I mean, I would be scared of Houston this season. One thing that I'm going to cut back on here in a few minutes is the Ron Moats build here. But moving on to Alaska. Alaska has a great build. I thought I would see more defensive players. I thought I'd see one receiver and one quarterback and the rest defense. But Alaska, is pretty evenly built here as well. The thing that gets me on this one here is, they have no running back. The running back kind of sets up these big pass plays for me. So that's going to be interesting to see, how that's going to take place. Maybe he's going to, give the running back some tosses out to the outside, maybe let him gain a couple yards and just kind of bring the defense down and hit them deep with Optimus Klein and Robert Merrill. But going over here to Vancouver looks very balanced on offense. I really like the way Andy's coming in with a running back, basically keeping the same stuff that he had last year, moving to, hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of mentality. I like that. I think if you find your niche, as you said earlier, Mighty, I think once you find that, I think you need to keep it and just keep getting better at it. And I think that Vancouver's going in the right direction. Going over here from my last thought with the Ryan Moats build, I'm like Andy. I'm not sure how he's going to think that the fullback is going to do what the running back can do. They're two different positions, and there's not that many plays in there for the fullback to do damage. What he's going to get into maybe is, if the fullback gets tired, he's going to have to rely on a running back. And so that's what troubles me there with the one wide receiver and the one tight end. Yes, the tight end can get involved, but as us owners right here on the podcast know, it's very, very hard to get a tight end involved in this game. So I just think that he's going to have trouble. If that first receiver is guarded pretty well down the field, that quarterback's going to look at what's my second option. It may be the tight end, but if the tight end gets caught up in a little bump and go action, then it's going to leave a receiver. Is the receiver going to catch the ball? Is a non-star receiver going to catch the balls or going to drop it? Who knows? I think their defense is lined up, okay. I think doing the outside linebackers, and I'm doing them this year too, but it kind of limits your play calling on defense a little bit. So we'll just see how it plays out for San Francisco this year. But that's my take on the Western side.
Cool. Ramos, before you jump in, let me break down the rest of the West, and then I have both you and Andy kind of, wrap it up a little bit. We're gonna move on to the Vaqueros with Joey Langdon, GM Joey Langdon. Can't forget that GM part is important. He's the recruiter. Being the signal caller, a high value signal caller at that. We got Jason German, who's coming back for his sophomore season at the low value. At running back, we have Daley Holder. At wide receiver, coming in at the middle value, we got Daley Hornish. So they got a pair of dailies. In San Antonio coming in at
all day. They're gonna be scoring all day on you, Mighty. Come on now.
I was going to just let that hang, but dead air is terrible for what we're doing. So I'm going to continue. Daley Hornish is coming in at low value at the receiver. They got Aaron Miller to come and play that tight end safety valve for Joey Langdon at a low value as well. On the defensive side, this is where they spent most of their money. They have Obi Okoye at the middle values, manning the middle of the defense at middle linebacker. They got Bailey Baca at defensive tackle, who's also middle value. They have the one corner, Justin Morris, at the middle value. They have low value Scott Perez playing strong safety. They have high value Jared Olson playing free safety. And then the daring avant-garde, build of, they carry both a kicker and a punter because special teams is important as well. They have the low value kicker Antonio Flowerglass, and then they got the middle valued Arminius Davis at punter. Let me touch on Vancouver since Shan spoke about Vancouver and their balanced offense. They're basically bring back everybody on offense except for their slot receiver. This season he'll be Jeremy Vega will be playing that role of a slot receiver at the low value, and Tristan Carr will be playing tight end at the low value as well. Tom Pepper, Yvonne Sanchez, Kay Stevens, and BK, the Burger King, Britt Killian are all coming back at the low value there. On the defensive side, Marcus Reed and Frank Champion, we've known them to become defensive stalwarts for the Legion defense. They're back at the low value. Jaquarius Dantomaterix is a middle valued corner. I hope I didn't screw that name up. Major Key is playing the opposite side, and he's at the low value. Joshua Banner will be playing the middle valued strong safety role, and Mahmoud Ajluni done jump ship from the from the Swarm to the Legion, and he's middle value as well. Last but certainly not least, what did I forget? Oh, that's right, the Storm. We got Ron Cochran coming back for his sophomore season at quarterback. He's at the middle value. We got Optimus Klein and Robert Merrill who are coming in as the only pair of high valued receivers on in the league. We have Jeff Como coming in to play the slot receiver role at the low value. We got Mammoth Yassine Clifton playing the tight end role at the low value. We got Big Sexy coming in as the highest value defensive end in the league. We have AJ Francis sliding from outside to middle at the low value. We got cornerback Evan Carroll coming in at the middle value. We got brand new rookie cornerback Ryan Davidson at the low value. We got strong safety Tony Willis coming in at the high value. We got newcomer Ryan Tobin. Yes, we got a pair of Ryans in Alaska as well. Coming in at the low value at free. And we have Brad Bratchett. Yes, Bratchett, not Brackett, not Beckett. Bratchett coming in at the low value to take over for Kodiak Denali's role at kicker. With that said, Ramos, what you think of the West?
Well, it's going to be very interesting on how the West is going to develop this season, because here's the thing, like I see the veteran teams being the front runners. In this case, Alaska, Houston. I have to throw in Vancouver, obviously. With the Sharks, I think that they will start the season pretty strong because I love their defense and they have high valued players on the defensive side. So probably they will win some games early in the season, probably just like 10-7, 13-10, something like that. But when player developing, is in full progress, so to speak, and Alaska and Vancouver and the Hyenas and all of them are developing, I think that the Sharks will kind of fall behind because I do not love their build. Like I like the fact that they have high-tiered, high-level defensive players, and that will keep them in ball games early on. But I think that they will have a lot of issues on scoring points. Especially later in the season when opposing defenses, for example, Alaska, for example, Vancouver, are really at their peak this season. So, I like the Sharks to probably win a few games early on, but at the end of the season, I think that Alaska, Houston, and Vancouver will probably fight for the number one spot. Number one to discredit San Antonio, but I think that having kicker and punter, like having one of them is like okay, and you ensure one part of your team, but having kicker and punter and only having 10 stars for the full offense and defense is it's not enough, I think. So, probably early on again they will be in ball games. Probably they can play some field position and win some ugly games. But I'm not sure that they will be able to win ball games down the stretch. Is basically what I'm trying to say. So
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ramos. I'm sorry. I'm going to cut you off.
No, that's fine. Thank you. And yeah, I mean that's it. I think if I have to put my money on one team, I don't want to be disrespectful to any other team, but I will go probably with the Hyenas because I like their build more. I like how it is explosive on every side. So probably I will lean towards Houston, but I will not be surprised if Alaska or Vancouver really runs away with it.
Andy, before you jump in, I will say this about San Fran's build. Yes, we've seen a fullback done. Yes, we've seen it done and not done well. But we've never seen a gold fullback in this league ever because it wasn't possible to have a gold fullback because basically it was a broken thing in All Pro. But that was remedied. We found a way to kind of create that player and for him to be effective. So until we actually see it in shape and how they're going to utilize it, yeah, we can knock them off what we know or what we've seen so far. But to say that we've seen it in this aspect would be kind of a little disingenuous. So that's why San Fran, I'm not saying, I'm discarding them, and I'm not saying I'm trembling. I'm just interested to see how they go about deploying and using that position from this point forward. So, Andy, what you think about the entire West?
Yeah, I think the Western Conference is going to be strong again. I think they're, like I was saying before, their teams, and I'll just, I'll address your point quickly, Mighty, because I had my spiel ready, and then you stepped in and wanted to talk about San Francisco again. Yeah, I think it's interesting that we've never seen a fullback of that caliber, but we've had silver fullbacks, which again, when you look at a position like running back, have still made damage. When Mexico City had a silver running back, that was still one of the better running backs the league has seen, especially at that tier. So you would imagine that obviously the gold running backs do better than the silver ones did. So if a silver fullback did nothing, then a gold fullback, in theory, will do just as much nothing. The thought process would be, we couldn't have gold fullbacks because if you then add a silver halfback or a gold halfback behind it, you're just going to plow through everyone. But, if there's no halfback back there that is anything but a generic, I don't know really where this is going to go unless you're running fullback dives all day. There's not really too many plays that take the fullback off the tackle, which makes a very predictable, running game for me. I think Ramos made the very good point in saying that, it kind of comes down to the build of the team. When you're putting guys like, quarterbacks and receivers and tight ends and outside linebackers, two of them, as high as San Francisco has, that's great. That's a wonderful thing to have players that good, but you're sacrificing the build that you have to make those players great. And it's evident in the punter being there. It's evident in them only having, the build that they have, only having 4 pieces on offense, one of which is a fullback. It just makes for a poor build, which down the line, I think will work against them, kind of like Ramos was saying. Moving on to the rest of the West, because I'm not going to spend all day discussing San Francisco and how they're built. Alaska obviously scares me again, like always. Mighty does a lot of homework, knows what he's doing. I'm interested to see how you're going to run no running back up there, especially in the winter. I'm praying for lots of snow games in Alaska because you kind of went with the snow build in your first year and didn't get much snow. So now I'm hoping that you're going air attack. You're going to get some snow on you, and we'll see how that'll affect your passing game. Dallas, I think, is the team that's going to scare me the most. When you look at the offense that they've built, they're not sacrificing their build for higher up to start. And that's, I'll get to that later. I talked a little bit about it with San Francisco. Dallas isn't doing that. Dallas has got the build they want. They have 6 offensive weapons. They have 6 defensive weapons. They got the 2 ends. They got their 2 linebackers, and they got 2 safeties. The issue here for me is going to be the cornerbacks. But we've seen teams like Queen City play without 2 cornerbacks and do well. And if anyone can pull it off, it's going to be Stephen Mullinex. Dallas is the team that scares me in this conference the most. Houston is there. I don't know if they necessarily scare me, but I do appreciate that they also did not break a solid build just to have higher numbers to start the season off. Because what you really have to think about is if these teams are the same and even going through progression, which they won't be, but if they were, the teams that have the lower builds are going to progress quicker than the teams that are already at the doorstep of being a gold player, because you can't progress as quickly as a gold player. So you have to consider that if everyone is progressing at the same rate by the end of the season, by week 11, week 12, everyone's going to have all gold players, right? Which is great. Perfect. Will be a very fun league. But the issue is if you then have a build where you have, let's look at like a San Antonio with a kicker and a punter, that's great that right now you have a gold free safety and a gold quarterback and then a silver receiver. It's great that you can build those pieces now, but by week 12, it won't matter necessarily what tier they're at. It'll matter what your build looks like and what you can do with that. And I think that leaves some of these teams like San Francisco a little bit like San Antonio, even though they have a pretty decent build to go along with their sacrifices. It'll kind of leave teams like that high and dry, and I'm interested to see where that lands them. Just from the standpoint, I don't think a kicker is sacrificing your build. I don't necessarily think a punter like what they have in Indianapolis is sacrificing your build at the bare minimum. But I think a team that's adding a kicker and a punter, you're kind of losing a little bit here of the edge. And that's going to be evident in their secondary. It's going to be evident on their offensive and their defensive side of the ball. I'm interested to see how the Western Conference plays out. I think it'll be a good one. I think Dallas, Alaska, Vancouver, and Houston are going to be the teams that are kind of fighting for the top 4 spots. Was that enough, or do I need to keep going?
No, you're good, bro. You're good. You got it in. You got it in. It's just like one of those. You were hesitant at first, and then you started with the freestyle, and you got hot, and it was like, oh my gosh, I can't stop him. So no, you're good.
Just flowing.
Yeah, I would just I would just piggyback with what Andy just said. I like the Roughnecks. I did not speak much about the Roughnecks, if at all. And the reason why is because even though I love their quarterback, Mike Wavy Jr., obviously one of the greatest of all time. Prince Escobar, probably top 3 or top 5 wide receiver ever. But the fact that they have no corners, I understand, and I've seen it happen. Like it can work, but again, with player progression, you're probably looking at by the end of the season, probably some wide receivers in this division, probably the Alaska receivers, the Vancouver receivers, the Houston receivers, probably they're going to be in the silver tier, probably actually even gold tier. So against Alaska, for example, 2 gold wide receivers against no star corners, I do not love it on the stretch. Like probably Dallas, even if they reach the playoffs, I'm not sure that in the playoffs they can actually stop a full, offense and an aerial attack.
I'm kind of against you here, Ramos, and I'll tell you why. Okay. When you look at the way that they have built that defense, they got the 2 ends, right? So that's going to be disrupting the quarterback. We know that really one defensive lineman doesn't do too much. 2 of them together, though, are going to do damage, right? So that's your front 4 is going to start doing some damage on the quarterback, going to make them throw quick. When you look at the 2 safeties, my guess is they're both dropping deep the entire game. I highly doubt they're going to play any man or play any close, right?
For sure.
So then you got your inside and outside linebackers, right? I haven't looked at those builds, but if I had to guess, over the course of the season, they're going to start putting some coverage on those because that's your second tier, right? In it, like let's say they're running a 2 soft, right? You got your 2 cornerback or your 2 safeties, dropping all the way deep. You got your linebackers taking away the 2 insides because they're just going to pick anything off there. You got your ends rushing. You really only got a few areas that you can go to the field where there's a generic covering it. And it's the flats. And really, what routes are you running there? You're running quick outs. You're running slants, right?
Right.
So you're talking about 3, 4, 5, 6 yards here. If you can bat one of those balls down, 2 of those balls down, you're looking at a 6-yard gain, and you're punting on 4th down because you just went 3 and out. I like the defense. I think if you build it the correct way, and I think they've done that with the inside and the outside linebacker, I think Dallas can do damage against these receivers because people are going to look at the safeties and say, there's no cornerbacks we should throw deep. And what's going to happen is Troy LaShaw, like he's done his entire time in the league, is going to make people pay for it. And this is going to be Brian Shark's year to come out and really turn some heads.
Yeah, I see that happening, absolutely. And I'll give you that. I'm not sure. I still, I'm probably kind of like the, traditional mindset of you have to have a full secondary. Right. But I see what you're saying. I mean, Troy LaShaw is going to make you pay. Troy LaShaw, I will say he's the 2nd best free safety in SFL history, right after Coma Blake, in my opinion. So, Troy LaShaw will make you pay. But I'm not sure. It kind of like if you throw the ball probably short to the outside, to the edges, even a swing pass, like can the corners tackle? I'm not sure. I don't know. I see what you're saying. It probably will work, and hopefully for Steven it will work. But we shall see.
Yeah, for sure. And I wasn't trying to take anything away from you. That's just how I see it. I think the way that they built it is good, but I definitely see what you're saying. You break one of those, to play devil's advocate with myself, you break one of those tackles on the corners on a, let's say, a hitch route, and you've got 15 yards there because the safety's deep covering your other guy who you sent on the fade. So, there's plenty to do with it, and we'll have to see where it ends up.
I'd like to chime in on that, but, even though you have two defensive ends here, what's to say this other team over here, let's say Mighty, for instance, who's maxed out with wide receivers, they're going to beat those corners anyway. I don't care if the corner is going to be bronze or silver, because you can't go any higher than that right now. Okay, so what's to say that his silver receivers are not going to beat those silver corners anyway? So he's just putting his money where he thinks that it's going to be relevant, later on down, because he's got a great secondary with Brian Shark and Troy LaShaw. Once they get in a secondary, those guys here are going to be bronze and gold, or silver and gold anyway. So, I don't know. I think it's a decent build, and I wouldn't do it, but I'm more like Ramos.
I think it limits your playbook. The question will be execution. Because the offense by week 5 is going to know what you're doing on defense. They're going to be able to scout that. They're going to say they're running these coverages, these plays. The question will be, can your players make the plays you need them to make in the moment? And it'll come down to who has what, because arguably the best receiver in the conference is on Dallas. So
you also have – you got Queen City, who's been – doing, I'm not sure exactly how long they've been doing it, but they've been going with no corners forever, and they're always in the playoffs. So, you got Queen City, who has a great defensive mindset with Eric, and then you got another great defensive mindset with Steven. So, maybe they found something in Queen City that they liked, and they can do relatively well and keep these guys at bay by sitting those, those generic corners, sitting those guys back. And if they're not doing anything at all, at least they're a body out there. So the quarterback's going to have to look in their direction. Even if they bring them back into cover 3, you're going to bring those guys back. So the quarterback may not necessarily – he may have to dink and dunk these passes underneath because of that. So – it's all to be determined, man. It's our opinions going at each other, and I'm like Ramos. I'm traditional. I want to have cornerbacks. I think they're I think they're relevant. You know what I mean? I think they're important.
Well, I think we'll all see by the end of the season what works and what doesn't. But I tell you what, that Alaska and Dallas game when they meet is going to be fun.
Oh yeah.
We'll see what Ron Cochran's got up his sleeve for the Dallas secondary.
Last season, Tallahassee was another team that ran with no corners, and they went 9. I believe they went 93 last year as well. So,
it's all about execution.
There you go.
Right.
So that's why this season to me is the greatest yet, because no two builds are alike. Which is like, you might have two teams that have the same exact layout player wise, but they decided to, let me have a middle tier receiver as opposed to a bronze one. Let me have a high tier running back as opposed to, so notes. Right. And this is beautiful. And I can't wait to see all these teams begin to execute. Matter of fact, I believe preseason's around the corner. So we all will get a chance to see these teams execute in some way, shape, or form. Avail yourselves to that. Pay mind to the SFL alerts. I believe that's so that way you'll know when things are going down. Big ups to Cam and like I said, and Andrew Rastelli and Flavor K and Stephen Mullinax and Alex. I believe it was Alex Bond. Was Yvonne on last night? Was it Jonathan Sanchez on last night?
I think it was Bond. Alex Bond was on.
Was that Bond?
It was Bond. Mm-hmm.
It was Bond. Yeah. Okay, well, big ups to all of them last night for giving us a great show. And
don't forget Kanye.
Oh, Kanye. Missed your good grief. It was entertaining. He ruffled some feathers. Literally ruffled some feathers. So that's going. I can't. Hey, chips, man. People got chips on their shoulder. Others got blocks. I want to see them on the field, and it's coming. So thank y'all, all y'all, for spending time with us tonight. Listen to us gabber about what we think is going to transpire. At the end of the day, we don't really know because I ain't picked Mexico City to win anything last season, and now we got a dude in Mexico he got a crown on his head, tilted sideways like he's Biggie, like what I'm saying. So the games are played on the. I was gonna say on the field, but it's on the virtual field. So pay mind to SFL alerts. Y'all be posted soon when the preseason games are going down and what the matchups are going to look like. And again, for Andy Hamilton, owner of the Legion, for Shan Varner, owner of the Wildcats, for Ramos, King Ramos, that's your new moniker, owner of the championship Mexico City Aztecs. I'm aspiring champion Max Paul, Mighty RX, owner of the Storm. Peace, thanks, and see y'all next week.
See ya.
Deuce.
Thank you.